Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Black Men Matter series on the male perspective. The podcast that's all about dispelling stereotypes and shining a light on the rich and varied experiences of Black men from all around the world. Each episode aims to broaden understanding and foster appreciation for their unique stories that often go unheard. Now, here is your host, Lana Reed, to introduce you to yet another remarkable Black man with an insightful perspective to share.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reed, and today, on this day, I have the pleasure of sitting down with a gentleman by the name of Matt Prestbury. He is the founder of an amazing, phenomenal, seen a large amount of growth in the years group, Black Fathers Facebook group. And I am looking forward to spending some time with him, learning more about his group, the work that he's doing, what he's got going on. But first and foremost, as I always do, sir, I take a quick moment to pause, say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once we give it, we can't get it back. So I truly appreciate you setting aside this time to talk to me. With that, sir, welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let me jump in because I got some questions to ask you and I don't want to take up your whole day. So let me
Certainly.
get going here. Let me first open up with the Black Fathers Facebook group. And I read that it started about 2008.
Yes.
So what was going on in your life at that time to make you say, hey, I think I want to gather up a few brothers? What was going on there?
So I was really looking around as a still very young father, I would say myself, looking around at the scenery in terms of how we were looked at as fathers, and I knew what I was all about. I knew what friends of mine were about in terms of raising their children. I would always take my children to the playground. I'd see other young brothers there. And one time I saw a young man walking up with a toddler who I would assume to be his child, and he had a diaper in his back pocket. And it really hit home. And it's like fathering by any means necessary, and we make it happen. However, when we are looked at in the society, we are so overlooked and not given credit. In terms of fathers in general, I looked in so many different mediums, as particularly magazines, and even things called parenting, specifically parenting or parents. And a 0.2% probably of everything you would see in there in terms of pictures and who articles were centered around and focused on were moms. And I really wanted to see something different, something that really allowed people such as myself to not only be represented, but actually represent themselves. So the idea with Black Fathers was that we, specifically as Black men, because I am one, always have been my whole life, and well, not a Black man my whole life, but you understand. I've been a Black male my whole life. And that is primarily who else I hang around, who else I see raising children. And I understand and understood then as a Black man in the United States, like the raw deal that I really saw that we caught on top of just being fathers. Like we had what you could say is the double whammy, our skin color and the way that we were looked at in society and still are to a large degree. It wasn't even just that we were the buffoons who could be in the commercials and things like that. Like we weren't even in the commercials. So when you saw the dads who were being belittled and things like that, they were white dads. And when you saw Black dads, they were most likely in the newspaper or somewhere or on the news catching a bad rap. It's a story where they weren't paying child support or this, that, and the third. And I just knew that there was another way. After being on Facebook for a short period, I decided to create this group in order to give us all as Black men an opportunity to speak for ourselves. Like we didn't need nobody else to tell our stories. We weren't begging people to tell our stories fairly. I said we don't need that. We could tell our own stories and our own words and our own images, and that's what Black Fathers has been all about. It's been from the beginning. It's us telling our stories about who we are and showing who we are, so we can counter the negative. We can counter the one side because, you know, you have a lot of people in societies where they only get one side of a story, you know, and that's all you know. If you grow up in some town wherever, in the deep South, in the Midwest, there are lots of places where you just aren't in contact with Black men on a regular basis,
True.
right? So you're getting what the mainstream media is telling and selling you on who we are. So I wanted to provide a place where we could tell our own stories and we could be the media. It is social media after all. So we don't have to complain about what the mainstream media is doing. We are also the media. You feel me? So I
Got you.
wanted to
Got
have that space. And not only that, I also wanted a space where we could talk about things that we generally don't talk about as men to each other when we're hanging out with our boys. We're not really talking so much about our struggles and things of that nature. We're talking about if it struggles is, oh man, this chick did that and the third to
you.
me, or you know, my job, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of like, oh, my daughter's about to come on her period and I don't know how to handle it, or things like
Yeah.
we didn't talk about stuff like that. So I wanted to create that space where we could feel comfortable and we could talk to each other and people who had been through it could give advice to people who hadn't been through it and so on and so forth. So that's really the basis of it all.
Okay. So it's a private group, and I visited before I peeked in with you today. So I don't get the luxury of knowing what actually goes on there. So what kind of things do you guys do
Right.
around there?
So we talk about everything. And what I'll say, two things. One, it originally started as an open public group and anybody could join with the idea that it was centered around Black fatherhood. What we quickly found out is that we had people, women, who like to you know,
And,
challenge things like if there was a post that
um,
said, hey, fellas, blah, 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 blah. This is my truth, so on and so forth. You know, then you might get somebody who's not a Black male who will counter and say,
mm,
no, that's not this, that's not that. And, you know, even though there are spaces and places for that where you can have those dialogues, we needed a space where we could just
true,
relate to
true.
one another and have the conversations where we weren't getting that kind of pushback based, you know, coming from somebody who has not had the same experiences
Yeah,
that we have. It's
true.
just the reality of it. So at one point I had to make the tough decision to make it a private group. I had to initially kindly ask those who were not Black men to leave the group, and then I had to go throughout the years and kick people out,
Mm,
basically, so that we could have you know, a real space all our own, so we could feel comfortable enough to really get down to the nitty gritty and talk about things that were really deeply important to us without having people challenge. You know, you still like not. I'm not going to make it seem like we're a monolith. Like somebody says something and everybody just agrees. It's so much debate and there's so many other things, but the difference is
awesome.
it's from other men, you know? So it's other
Yeah.
people who go through similar type of situations and who can understand just from a male perspective, even if they don't absolutely agree with you. But
Hmm.
that's the beauty of it too, is that not everybody agrees. So we get different perspectives. I used to beat my young older children. I'll admit I used to give them whoopings, you know.
Hmm.
But then I saw my good brother OG Troy Knowles. He came in the group one day and he was like, "Man, you guys are." I don't know if he said crazy, but basically, in essence, like, y'all need to cut this nonsense out because there's no
Mm,
reason you should be beating on your kids like the enslavers used to beat on your
true.
ancestors. You know, it just does not make sense. That's a mentality that we picked up from them that we are screwing our kids up with. And I say, you know what? You're absolutely right. There's no reason I should be putting my hands and physically harming my children. And I stopped.
Awesome.
So we get
Awesome.
all kinds of perspectives. We talk about all sorts of things from anything from new fathers who are still expecting that the child hasn't even been born yet, and they're asking questions about what do I need to know in advance before they get here. You
Oh,
get those who are, like I said, the young ladies coming on her cycle, or they have to go bra shopping. You
mm,
get people who get all kinds of course, child support situations and custody situations. We have men all the time who are either getting partial or even full custody of their children. And all of that comes down to getting information and encouragement. And that's what a lot of people don't get because so many of us are in these kind of silos because either we don't have other males around us who are fathers,
Mhm.
who are active fathers. We can know men, we can know a lot of men, but not all of them are actively raising their children.
Fathers,
You
yes.
did, right. So to have people around who you can really rely on in person, a lot of us don't have that. And even ones who are, like I said, we don't always get into those sorts of things. And now with the advent of this anonymous post on Facebook, a lot of people they feel way more comfortable because they don't even have to tell you who they are when they ask their
Mm.
questions. So they'll ask a lot deeper questions and more vulnerable questions because they're not putting their name out there. So that actually helps a lot for people to get the advice that they need on all types of situations. My son is 26 and he just sits on the couch playing video games. What I need to do, oh,
Mhm.
it's so many different scenarios that come up all day long, but it's a beautiful thing because I can see what we are doing for people. And for a long time, I was just thinking like, oh, it's just a Facebook group. Anybody can start a Facebook group. I haven't done anything special. And I really honestly had serious imposter syndrome because I
Oh,
got a lot of recognition and accolades for this group. I've been blessed so much to have so many different experiences. And for a long time, I was like, I know people who are paying rent for people who are doing this, who are doing that. And I just have a Facebook group. But over the years, and especially as I've asked the question to people, why do you want to join this group? What do you hope to get from it? I've seen just how much of an impact this group is making on
yeah.
people's actual day-to-day lives. And I even saw something over the weekend where someone was telling me that they were getting together because every so often we do a roll call and I'll ask where people are, checking in from what's going on for the weekend. And somebody said, I'm in this spot and I'm getting together with some brothers from the group and we're going to do
Oh,
thus and such. And that means so much to me because over the course of these 17 years now, I've been pushing all the time for us to get from behind the screens. This is
there you go.
fantastic,
There
but I
you
want us
go.
to get from behind the screens. I want us to meet each other in person. I want us to support our children in person, our what we call our nieces and nephews
There you
online. That's what
go.
we call them. So if we're considering them our family, then we need to get from behind these keyboards, behind these screens, and we need to go out in person and support our family. And that's what I really want to see happen more often. When a kid's got a football game, when somebody has a spelling
Yeah.
bee, like somebody else from the group should be there helping to support that child, other than in
True.
addition to their own parents and own family members.
True.
So
I mean, not only would that be impactful to you, brothers, but for the community to see the fathers out there engaged and
yes,
active, because it would push back against the narrative that the media
yes.
continues to try to spin against you guys. So to get you guys offline, that would be phenomenal. So,
Absolutely. And since the beginning, of course, as I said already, I've initially made it a public group because I really wanted the world to see what we're all about and for us to be able to show our truth to the
mm,
world. So people who didn't get that slice of our lives or people who were just fed other things and, because perception, unfortunately, perception shapes reality. So if I'm a judge and I'm in a court and I have this perception of you as a black man based on me growing up on this farm with only these people who only believe
hmm
this way. And then I come into a courtroom and I'm judging your whole future based on my bias because I don't know
mm,
any other stand-up black man. All I know is the ones I've thrown in jail. That sort of thing.
yeah.
It really can shape the reality. So I want people to get another slice, but I'm also not twisting people's arms and trying to make them see us in a certain way. I can't force you to believe
hmm
anything about me. All I can do is lay it on the table and you can take it or you can leave it. I can cook the food for you. You can eat it or you can leave it on the plate, but I'm going to put it out there so you can see it so that you're not only being fed the drug dealers and the deadbeats and those who are spreading their seed all over and
Yeah.
just going on about their business. You're going to get another side of this too. So the meeting up in public is really important because it definitely helps us to get those images and those stories out there for people to see who exactly we are. So many of us who are dedicated fathers raising
There
our
you go.
children.
There you go. There you go. Let me backtrack a little bit because you said something and I'm a little upset with you. just the group. And
Uh,
I know you're dealing with the imposter syndrome, so I'm
yes,
gonna overlook it a little bit. But this group in 17 years has grown to 100,000 brothers.
yes,
100,000 brothers. Let me say that one more time. A
yes,
100,000 brothers. That is a lot of Black men centralized in one place.
it really is.
What do you contribute to that kind of growth in 17 years?
Consistency, dedication, an awesome admin team, our
Mm,
moderators and our admin who have bought in from day one. I feel like a coach, like I'm the head coach, and I've got coordinators and assistants who have bought into the system, and then the players too. So we have the ability to really be very consistent. I'm not gonna throw any other groups under the bus or anything like that, but I have been a member of other groups where it has really gone off the rails, and I had to leave those groups. So what I'll say is that we have really strived over the course of these 17 years to keep it on a level that we won't go down from. We're not lowering the bar, and I understand that times change, people change, but I'm so happy to see that even as we get younger folks coming into the group, they understand what it's about and they know that you have a choice. You don't have to be here. Nobody's twisting your arm. We're not holding you
mm.
hostage. And I think that's the beauty of it is that we tell everybody, look, this is a choice. You can leave just as easily as you came in. And we could have 200,000 members if we weren't so much committed, if we weren't
Mhm.
so committed to keeping it away. We have people some people can't get with the rules, and that's on them. You can go start a group the same way I started a group. I don't have a problem because my thing has always been and always will be quality over quantity. If we had 100 members and we were really changing the lives of 100 people and that's all we ever had, I could be satisfied.
There
It
you
doesn't
go.
have to be, but 100,000 just means that we are really shaping that many more lives and we're getting that many more views. And we have people, the one thing I love so much is the number of people who invite other people.
Oh.
And I think that's the beauty of it. It says a lot. When we get members who are requesting to join and they say things like, well, my brother told me or my good friend told me that this was something I need to be a part of, or my
Oh.
my friend is in it and I figure if he's in it, then I need to be in it too. And all of that sort of stuff. So we basically, I mean, like it's like we have a brand, and people
Mhm.
understand what it's about. When they hear that name and they hear about Black fathers, they understand that we have a standard that we don't go against. When you're not going to be disrespectful to your fellow members, you're not going to be disrespectful to women. You can vent and you can do all of this, and that's the thing. Like we give leeway to vent because we know it's a lot of hurt brothers out there. They got to get this stuff off their
Mhm.
chest because they don't have other places to do it in a healthy
Mhm.
way. We
Mhm.
can go out, we can be violent all we want, and people will cheer that. Oh, look at this crazy
Mhm.
guy, blah, blah, blah. But when we're being vulnerable and we will just want to sit and we just want to vent and get something off of our chest and not be judged harshly for it and all of that, that's what this group exists for. But at the same time, we have to also remember that we're not here to be disrespectful to particularly our Black queens out there. Many of us are married to them. We have Black daughters, we have Black mothers. So we're not going to be disrespectful, and nobody in this group is disrespecting anybody's children. And like I said, there are other groups where certain things can slide, but we're not playing that. Because like I would always, at the end of the day, I will go back to having 100 members if it means, keeping it on a certain standard that we can't with 100,000.
Mhm.
Quality
Mhm.
over quantity all day long.
Mm-mm-mm. It's amazing that other groups would allow that to, I mean, take place if you're trying to be about this Black
Yeah.
fatherhood concept. And, you know, we need you men to be shown as leaders in the community, and that would seem to be contradicting that message and that image.
Absolutely. And it is unfortunate, but I think, we understand in this day and age, a lot of people just want engagement and they don't
Mm.
care what it's like. And they know that on social media, the disrespectful stuff, the wild and crazy kind of stuff, it brings about the engagement. you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we have, and that's one thing that I love is that we have shifted because we as an admin team have enforced that it's going to be a shift where we're not going to be that group. So, you can see people in the beginning where they're coming in and they're trying to feel things out and all of that. But now it's to the point where other members are like, that's not acceptable here. We're not doing that, you
Oh.
know? And people just get it on so many topics. Like even one that was we really had to push on from very early on was homosexuality, bisexuality, and people who were being disrespectful, even to the level of what we would consider homophobia, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, it has changed because people understand it's like you can feel how you want to feel. I've never been the feelings police.
Mm-hmm.
I am the what you type in this private group
There you go.
police,
Yeah.
you know? So feel however you want to feel, but that don't mean you're going to type it in here. So we tell everybody and we stay consistent on that. Like offline, whatever in your head, feel how you want to feel. But if you want to say something that's going to be disrespectful to people, many of whom are either in that lifestyle, or either some of us in the group as
Mm-hmm.
members are gay, bisexual, whatever, and or have family members who are. I have very close family members who are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not accepting it. Nobody else in there is accepting it. And so many of the other group members are not accepting it. So it's like what they say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's easy. You can still feel how you want to feel, but nobody's twisting your arm to make you have to say, oh, I don't agree with this. I hate this lifestyle, blah, blah, blah.
There you
Keep it
go.
to yourself and keep pushing. You'll live to
There
see
you
another
go.
day.
There you go. It
You
ain't
will be
gonna,
fine, trust
it
me.
ain't gonna stop anything.
Nah,
Ain't gonna
nothing. Go
stop
go
anything.
write it down in your journal, put it in your voice notes on your phone, do whatever you want to do, but you're not typing it in here and staying a
In
member of this
here.
group. You're just not.
There you go. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, what does the admin team have to do to get us in some real time, real life meetups here? What do we got to do? Talking like I'm part of the team, but you know.
Oh man, right. Honestly, I don't know. I hate to say this, but it's been such a struggle for me. I have hosted so many events, and I think a big part of it is going to be members who do things like whoever it was that said they were getting up last weekend. They need to post some pictures. They need to do something to show other people like what they did, and hopefully that will encourage others to do the same. And I think now, honestly, in the what do we call it? In the climate, I'll say
Let's be nice.
in
Yes.
the climate in the United States, I think is so important now more than ever for us to
Yes.
really come together as Black people.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think, as much as we can give each other resources online, we can do so much more offline and be resources to one another. And that's been one of my taglines since I started the group is for us to be resources to one another. So whether it's through the spread of information online, or whether it's through the encouragement of getting together offline, whether we pool some funds together and people start growing some stuff because the ish is it's not even about to hit the fan. We see that the ish is hitting the
Already.
fan on a
Already.
regular basis. And it's like
Already.
we are still sitting around doing line dances and waving our fans and all of that. You want to really talk about boots on the ground, this is what it's about. We got to get together in person and really
And
do
through
some stuff.
community.
So no disrespect to the line dancers, but we're
But
gonna need more than that to sustain.
reality, yeah, we need to come back to community. And I think
Yes,
it's been a big propaganda push to kind of disconnect the Black community. Even as
yes,
we're talking today about Black fathers, there's been a whole propaganda push to remove fathers from the family, and that's had its
yeah.
longevity impact. So but we need to be awake, we need to be aware, and so many of us are not. So but and I think that's why I was really impressed with the numbers, like a
Thank you.
hundred thousand, but
Yeah. And I appreciate that so much. And like I said, really could have so many more. It's just so many people like the blacklist is long. We had to put
mm,
out, unfortunately, we had to put out a lot of people. And I want everybody to be here who is qualified and supposed to be here, And let me say with that, it's not a stipulation that you have to already be a father because I actually encourage men who are not fathers yet, even as young as 17, 18 years
So
old,
you
to
can learn.
be a part. Exactly. Thank you. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because so
Mm-hmm.
many of us, we don't learn till we on the job. We get orientation once we get hired, but we don't know anything in advance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
So
also
this is an
it's providing
opportunity.
role models too. So you might have a
That too.
17-year-old be able to connect with a 50-year-old or whatever, and
Absolutely.
just give him some man experience, you know?
Yes, yes. And that's another part of the connecting offline is that people can really develop mentorships, and to
Mm-hmm.
help these young guys who are just coming up to be really to be the best fathers they can possibly be.
Mm-hmm. Let me switch a little bit here and let me ask you, because we've been talking about the group. Um, you as a father, you have some babies there, some children. You have some children.
I have some children. They're definitely not babies anymore. I still call them my babies, but my youngest is 18 at Valdosta State University. Yeah. So,
What have because we've been talking about fathers, but what have your children done for you in your life to grow you into the man that we see today?
mm, it's been so much. It's been so much. Like when I was younger, when I was much younger, like I really wanted to be a father and I didn't know what it was about, but I knew I wanted to be a father because at the time, and I'll just get real because we're going to talk about so much real stuff, is that when I was very young, I had very low, if any, self-esteem, right? And I was very devoid of self-esteem and hollow on the inside, I felt, and I sought validation from so many places. So the first thing that my children did for me was give me more external validation, I will say, and to have that love and that sense of security around me from my children. I know it kind of sounds weird because so many other men, especially at 22 years old, if they were fathers, it was completely by accident. Mine was not. I wanted to be a father. I wanted to build, and I've always been someone about community. So to me, that
Mm-hmm.
family was that very first and closest sense of community building.
Yeah.
So I made my babies intentionally, and they gave me so much and still do to this day, like watching them grow, seeing the things that they have learned from me, especially without me saying anything, just by watching me. They have changed my perspective on so many things, especially as they become teenagers. My daughter, who has taught me so much about the LGBTQ plus community and just about treating people a certain way and looking at people differently and not being as judgmental. It's just so much I could say about what my children have brought to me. The experiences that I can have with them as adults and even as when they were teenagers that I never had with my father at that age because when I was 13, I moved 12, 13, I moved with my mom. And at that point, I really only had a one-way relationship with my dad. If I did anything with my dad, I really had to initiate it, you know?
Mm.
So for me to be 45, 44, whatever, and my kids being teenagers at the time, and we're still going on road trips and doing things like this that I did not do with my father past the age of 8, pretty
Oh.
much. It's just meant so much to me. And then to think like even in the midst of my depression, how much I have wanted to live for them, even when I didn't really want to live for myself.
Mm.
So even going that deep, I can say my children really have helped save my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, like looking at
Yeah.
my kids and I'm like,
I can't
I
check
can't
out
I
today.
can't do this. Right.
Yeah, I gotta
Not
keep going.
today.
Gotta keep
Yeah.
going. Um, you mentioned your dad, and I'm not sure how soft of a touchy of this is, so you can let me know if you don't want to answer this question. If you had to speak to fathers about the importance of no matter what, staying engaged and involved in your child's life, what would you tell them why it's so important?
It's crucial because for me, number one, fatherhood is a gift that you give to yourself. And like for all that my children have given to me. Like I can't even put it into words, like how much they have meant to me, how much they have done for me, how much they have changed me and helped me grow. It's like if you're not actively involved in your children's lives, you don't know what you're missing out on first.
Mhm.
Even before we get into them, you're missing out on so many great things. Secondly, it's can be very damaging to children. And again, in the climate of the society, I think is so important as the United States is really going in the direction that is going. We have to really, as a people, be here for each other more than ever before. And for if you have made a choice to bring a child into this world, knowing the climate and knowing what's going on, you owe it to them to protect that child and
Mhm.
to give that child as much love, security, and everything else that you can possibly give to them,
True.
you know? And it's always been the case, but like I said, as things go on and things get worse in the States and other parts of the world as well, like we really have to be there and become closer knit families. And most importantly, that starts with our children because we really, regardless, whether accident, choice, whatever, you co-brought them into this world and it's your
Mm.
responsibility. So you really do owe that to them. Children don't owe you anything,
They didn't
but
ask to be here.
they did not at all. They don't owe us anything, but we owe them everything.
True. True. I wish we could get a peek in on that group. Y'all got some, I can tell y'all have some phenomenal conversations going on in there.
We definitely do. We definitely do. And I'm actually working, I started another group. Um, and I feel terrible because I gotta check Facebook and make sure I got the name right. But I want to say I just started it a couple of weeks ago. Rooted in culture, raised in love.
Okay. Okay.
Rooted in culture, raised in love. And the idea behind rooted in culture and raised in love is to have a space where people who cannot get into Black fathers can still celebrate. So it's for parents of Black children, whether that means
Mm.
you are Black, whether you are
Okay.
biracial, whether you're
Mm.
white, because over the years, we've had plenty of women who said, I want my son who might be a young child who's not on Facebook, so on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth, and she can't join the group, but she still wants him to be able to see images and hear stories about active
Mm.
fathers because his is probably not in his life, so he
Gotcha.
doesn't have that real world representation. Also, we've had uh, a number of white men who've come to us and they've said, "Look, I'm not Black, but I have a Black child, and I want to get
Mm.
perspective from Black parents." So that's the idea of rooted in culture, raised in love, is that these are parents of Black children, whether the parents are Black themselves or whether they're not, whether they've adopted the child, whether it's fostering, whatever it is, you have a
Okay.
Black child or more that you want to raise, knowing their history, knowing their culture, and feeding into
Mm.
that. And so that they know who they are, they really have knowledge of self. So you want to get that authentically. So that's the community I'm working to create there and rooted in culture, raised in love. Is that for any parent of a Black child can join that group, male, female, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. You can join that group if you are raising or have raised a Black child.
Doing the most. Doing the most. Okay. Okay. Let me go back because I want to make sure I bring up because you mentioned this your own mental health issues, and one of the things I love my brothers to death. I
Mhm.
love my brothers to death. Um, and then when you add on the complexity of all of the components of fatherhood, Black men historically have never been ones to openly talk about mental health. And I think that compounds the fatherhood experience. It could put
Yes.
some dents in the fatherhood experience. What do you say to brothers out there to tell them it, to let them know it's extremely important for you to do some check-ins in your head and make sure you're okay? I mean, and what that impacts if you don't do that. Mm. 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 Mm.
So I'll say for me, My story, I was one again who grew up very low self-esteem, not feeling good about myself at all, wanted to bring in other people to make myself feel better, wanted to have polo outfits and Tommy Hilfiger and this and that, looking great on the outside because I was so empty on the inside. And I didn't really honestly have people like my family loved me, of course. My mom loved me deeply and did whatever, but I didn't have people at the time who were in a position to say anything about my mental well-being, or at least who would. I mean, they could
Okay.
have, but it just wasn't a conversation at the time. And I'm sure a lot of people in my age bracket can relate.
Yeah.
So growing up as a teenager, going through these things, a young adult, and really becoming not even Matt Prestbury, but just becoming Bryce, Breon, Layla, and Braylon's dad at the time,
No.
and this person's husband, then that person's husband, and the founder of Black Fathers, Matt Prestbury was nowhere in there. I had actually created an identity for myself that I really got fed up because I didn't realize the science of it. I had created this myself, but I also got pissed when people would only ask me about Black fathers or ask me about, well, what the kids doing or this and that. And people didn't care about Matt Pressbury as a person. And it took a lot of time and soul searching and everything to find out that, dude, you're the problem because you created this persona. You don't even know who you are. So
Mm.
how can you expect anybody else to know who Matt Pressbury is? You don't
Mm-hmm.
care about
Mm-hmm.
yourself enough to have
Mm-hmm.
people caring about you. What you
Mm-hmm.
expect from other people, you have to give to yourself
There
first.
you go. There you
You
go.
can't expect them to care about you as a person when you don't.
There you go.
So I had to get to a point where I could understand for myself the importance of my mental health, and that came only after multiple attempts to get off of this planet, after harming myself, after doing so many things, and after finally, after getting a divorce from my second wife, who had just, she'd had enough. And I say in my book, Butterfly Messages, one of the poems, I say she released me. I thought she sent me to the wolves, but what she really did was allow me to pull the wool from my eyes. And so then I
Mm.
could finally see that. And I told her one time, I said, you really was raising 5 kids because I was one of them. I was raising 4. You were raising 5. And
Oh.
I know that wasn't helpful to her, but it was just my point of understanding of how much I had really been acting as a child, and I was having these temper tantrums. And yes, I needed help. I had a serious mental condition, but I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do. So that's the thing. You can go through life and you can miss so many things. You could have so many opportunities ruined. You can lose out on a lot just not understanding the
Mm.
importance of being in even a half decent frame of mind. We're Black folks in the United States, or at least who lived in the United States. So many of us are depressed just based on that reality.
Just
You
walking out
know,
the front door.
just walking out the front door, and especially as men, but of course, Black women get it too, Black children,
Mm.
you know. So there's so much that we already have in us through our genes, through our
Mm.
environments, our nature, our nurture, all of those things that we have, and so many of us don't address them, especially us as men. We either don't feel like we can, should, or that there is a space where we can go to talk about these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a society in which we live where the only truly acceptable emotion that we really want to see from men is anger.
Mm.
You
Especially black
good.
men, it's
You
expected.
right.
Yeah.
You good when it's expected. You getting in a rage, you breaking stuff, you doing this and that. Cool. Just what men do. Boys break
Mm-hmm.
stuff, they do this, they grow up to be men who do this, that, and the third. But sadness, vulnerability, depression,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, like we still are working to get to a place where those things don't make us feel less than because we are
That part.
expressing those things to one another. So what so often happens is that we both get to a point where we have built up so much inside of us because we're not expressing healthily that we express in a very unhealthy way, which is our anger coming out, right? So we do that to ourselves, and we know that, it could be problematic, but it's the only thing that is expected from me and oftentimes accepted of me as a man.
Mm-hmm.
Is if I'm going somewhere and I'm pissed off, or I'm just gonna go to the gun range, I'm gonna go do this, I'll go to the gym and I'll, work it out and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that, you know, going to the gym is unhealthy or anything like that, but there are other things that we need to do as well. And much of that involves talking.
Mm-hmm.
So many people could really benefit from getting with a therapist to talk to. And then there are many other forms of therapy. So sitting with someone is not the only way to go about doing it. There are a lot of things that can be done, but we really shortchange ourselves if we're not really analyzing that which we're going through, being honest with ourselves, and then we're shortchanging our children as well, because especially our
Mm-hmm.
sons, because we're teaching our sons that they're supposed to be all stoic and not show emotions, not any emotion but anger, not really emote in a healthy way. We tell
Mm-hmm.
boys they're not supposed to cry, this, that, and the third.
Mm-hmm.
So we have boys who are growing up to be men who don't show emotion. They think showing emotion and vulnerability is weakness, when in reality it's actual strength.
Strength.
The coward is the person who was afraid to show the world what they're really going through. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the strong one. The strong one is the one who knows that
Yeah.
I can be vulnerable. And it's better and healthier for me to let these things out, because as I improve my relationship with myself, I improve all of my other relationships.
Yeah.
And when I really got to understand, and I came down here to Colombia after my separation, prior to my divorce finalizing, and I started going to drumming circles, healing circles, sound bowl therapy, doing all kinds of things to really get in touch with myself, and psilocybin, I will say, and cannabis, to really help get an understanding of who I truly am as an individual, not the founder of Black Fathers, not this person's husband, not this person's father, not this person's son, not this person's brother, just Matt Prestbury as the individual. And once my relationship with myself started improving and I really learned who I am and where I'm going, because evolution is inevitable. We're going to change. Or
Mm-hmm.
devolution. You can go backwards if you want to, but I'm going forwards,
There you go.
But we never say stagnant, change happens every day. You're either
Mm-hmm.
growing or you're devolving and you're going backwards, your choice. But I'm going forward, and there's always progress, and there's
Mm-hmm.
always more that I can do. So as my relationship with myself improves, it improves every other relationship in my life. I have met my current wife, who I love dearly with all my heart, who is right down here with me in Colombia. My relationship with my children improved. My ex-wife is still one of my best friends in this world, and
Awesome. Awesome.
we have a great relationship. My wife, and I all have a great relationship. We were over at their house. They moved into a house at a little house warming of sorts, that we went to. So all of those things improve. So, when you find yourself on a roller coaster, as I found myself, and you thinking, as I thought, the only way to get off of this roller coaster is to not be on this planet. That's what I really thought at the time. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see other ways to get off, but I really had to get the help that I needed in order to see that it's a roller coaster, but it's for a reason. And it's not just because you are especially cursed as an individual, which a lot of us think
Mm-hmm.
out there, like, woe
Mm-hmm.
is me. Nothing ever good happens to
Yeah.
me. Why is the universe against me?
Yeah.
Me.
That
But you
pity
don't even
party.
understand, right? The whole pity party. Like God just woke up one day and said, yeah, this person,
We're gonna pick on
yeah,
Matt today. We're gonna pick.
just pick on Matt today, and for the rest of his life, I got nothing better to do. I'm just going to give him so much trouble and so many problems,
Mm-hmm.
this, that, and the third. But you really got to understand what it's all about. And it's not about that. Life is about trials and tribulations to help you grow and help you progress and to be better. If every day was sunny like it is right now, I wouldn't appreciate the sun at all. I appreciate the sun today because last week, every day was cloudy and a mug and rainy and cold. So now the
You
sun
got
is
to see the
shining bright.
bad.
Exactly. To really understand, and you gotta know, like, it's gonna come not to break you down and destroy you. It could do that if you let it, but that's because
Hmm.
you let it, not because God just said, I don't want this person to succeed in life, you
There you
know?
go.
But a lot of us have that mindset because our minds are so twisted and so cloudy that we think we have this special curse that only we deal with and all these problems only we deal with. But when you start to understand what the world is really all about, then you know that's not the case. And you know that everybody else in this world goes through some stuff too. And it's all about how
Mhm.
you react and respond to the things that you do.
There you go. There you go. And you think about it, it's kind of ego narcissistic to think that, okay, God's over here, like the whole United States is
Very
falling apart, but I'm going, he's worried about me.
right. Very much so. All of this stuff is going on, and he
He
just
worried,
made
he just
he
picking
just
on me.
yeah, made sure my car broke down today, made sure this check didn't come on time, all of this.
That's funny. That's funny.
Mm, mm, mm.
But listen to your story. You bring up a very important point that I think the community around Black men and Black fathers needs to really understand, because here it is, you have brought into this world this phenomenal group that's impacting the lives of fathers. You're a father yourself, you're a husband yourself, but you're emotionally struggling, and we need to be, the people around these men like you need to be more attentive. And even though we might not have the language, we might not
Hmm.
have the training, but just say, hey, you all right? Like, we
Yeah,
need to find somebody or something. But we think that because you're functioning, you're doing, everything must be okay. But that's not the
right.
case.
Right. It's like the saying, I know we've all heard this, check on your strong friends, because
Mm-hmm.
we feel like because they're not complaining that everything is all good with them, but we know that it's not. So I'm hopeful that things have really sustained and will continue to sustain and grow as they have. We know that we live in a very reactionary society when it comes to mental health. When things go wrong, everybody's posting on Facebook, mental health is real and this, that,
Mm-hmm.
and the third. But as things kind of quiet down, then you don't hear so much. So I would love for us, and I'm speaking myself included, to really maintain those connections and to just check on people. And I will say, I definitely have people in my life who call me and will say, and I do the same, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. That's it. And it can really
Mm-hmm.
be that simple. And it doesn't have to be super deep because a lot of times, and the thing that I really want to stress to people is when you call those people, ask them, is there anything that they want? Because a lot of us have a tendency, it's like we'll say something and then if they start talking about whatever, then we want to jump in and give advice. But not
Mm.
everybody who's going through something wants advice. Sometimes
Yes.
people just want you to listen. Exactly. They want to
Mm-hmm.
be heard. So many of us just want to be heard, not judged, and not given advice. So you got to make sure if you're talking to people that you know what they want when they're talking to you, or even when you
Mm-hmm.
call to check on them. Don't just jump in and start going in this, that, and the third, because
Mm-hmm.
it may be counterproductive.
There you
It
go.
really could be. The same with a lot of fluff, because that's why I don't offer hollow fluff. Like if people contact me and they're going through stuff, I don't give a lot of those fluffy quotes that just
Just
sound
be
good.
all right. It's
Right,
just a
thank
moment in
you.
time.
No, this is 24/7, 365. I've been experiencing this for the past 10 years. I do not want to hear you telling me about a temporary problem at all. It's not temporary, right? So I don't do that because I know that number one, like I said, that also can be counterproductive. Plus, people have to want to live for themselves. Like I said, I chose to live for my kids even when I didn't want to live for myself. But if it still came down to it, if I really wanted it bad enough to check out, it would have happened. If I had
Mhm,
the strength and courage to do it myself, it would have happened already, in spite
mhm,
of.
mhm,
So it's a lot of us in those situations. But I just want people to. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to bring up that's very important for me, what I did was I developed a list of people who I wanted to call in times of crisis. And I think this is super important because at first, you get people when people find out you're going through, everybody's like, "Oh, why you didn't call me?" Or next time you can call me. And a lot of people I don't want to talk to
That
in
part.
those moments, you know? And a
Okay.
lot of people I can't necessarily rely on to answer the
They're not
phone.
safe. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I encourage everybody to develop a list of multiple people that you feel comfortable calling and you want to talk to in
Mhm.
crisis, not just people who said that you can call me, people that
Yeah.
you yourself know you want to talk to, and people who will be helpful and not harmful and make things worse.
It's like a safety plan. So, like if you're in a building, you already know
Yes,
like where the fire escapes are and all. So it's
absolutely.
like having a safety plan.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. So look, I'm sorry. I took up more time than I got a couple more questions. Please bear with me. Please bear with
Not
me.
a
I
problem.
didn't take up your whole day. Um,
No, it's fine.
you mentioned a couple of times that you're currently living internationally, but you were born
Yes.
in Bmore. You was born in Bmore, right?
Yes.
So you've lived in the United States. You're now living internationally. As a Black man, what differences do you notice in the two?
Oh man. So the first thing I tell people, somebody asked me when I first came down here, they said, "What's it feel like being a black man in Medellin?" I said, "It feels like I don't even have to think about being a black man." And that's truly what it is. And like, even though so many people and most of what we're in Rio Negro right now, and but even in Medellin, so many of the people are of the same complexion and they're more Spaniard and not what we consider Afro
Mm-hmm.
Colombians, but you still get your fair share here and there. But even with that, and my wife, we've both said the same thing. It's like you really don't have to think about it. Whereas in the States, it's so much, it consumes you so much, even when you try not to let it. Just watching things that go on, especially for me, I'm a deep empath. So it doesn't have to happen to me necessarily. I can be watching the news and see
Mm-hmm.
something happen to another brother, and and it's affecting me deeply. So to see those sorts of things and to understand how we generally, as a people, have to move differently, and not to say that we have to placate white people or anything like that, but we understand the reality and what can be done, what can happen to our lives with a simple phone call. So
Mm-hmm.
those are things that are on our minds, and especially parents with children in the States, we have to think about them as well and how they move and what people are thinking about them when they're walking down the street or when I'm going to an Airbnb and somebody's basement is the neighbor thinking I'm breaking in and things like that that I just simply do not think about in this environment at all. And I know that there's colorism, it happens. I don't pretend that that doesn't exist. There's racism, there's discrimination against indigenous folks and all of those sorts of things. And I don't pretend that that doesn't exist, but it is a wholly different feeling when you don't feel like and aren't told that you are the minority, that's not hammered over your head, and you're not made to feel inferior just based on the color of your skin. And I truly appreciate that. That's how I feel. I can't speak for anybody else in this country and what they go through, but for me, that's absolutely how I feel. And it's just such a peace of mind, which I love
There
here.
you
And
go.
plus, the people are just awesome. The Colombians, every one I've met has just been phenomenal,
Beautiful spirits. Beautiful spirits.
Except
Yeah.
that guy who told me I was supposed to tip him when I know I didn't tell him I was going to tip him. Other than that guy, every Colombian that I met.
I don't think, because we carry it around every day, we've been doing it for generations. I don't think Black people realize the heaviness that we have,
Yes, yes,
here.
yes. Even
You
just for me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but for me, a lot of it is based on the ground and the history. It is based on living in an environment, and I understand the history here as well, but it's deeper for me, even though I know African, enslaved people, and I won't say that it's something that I can't feel here as well, but in the States, there has just been such a history that we have learned about and been reminded about. So to know just how many of my ancestors died on those grounds, my ancestors both from Africa and my ancestors who were indigenous people, how many of them to be in Georgia and be literally standing in the place where the Trail of Tears
Mm-hmm.
was, as well as so many plantations and so much enslavement and all of those things. And it's like I can go to Lake Lanier and put my hands in the water and I can feel the spirit of the ancestors around me. I can go to Washington in what is it, Jamestown, and
Yeah.
feel the spirit of my ancestors. So it is such a heaviness based on what the history that has happened, that our ancestors have lived through, and that has been taught to us, and which is in literally inside of our DNA.
Our DNA.
And it's yeah, and that's what it is. So for me being from that and moving to another place, I don't feel that as heavily now as I move into learning the history of Colombia and getting closer with Afro-Colombians on the coast and understanding
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm going to feel it as well when I'm standing on those grounds. I'm really going to feel it as well, but it's still somewhat of a difference based on having lived in that country, having my ancestors, my direct ancestors, who
Mm-hmm.
I'm a descendant of, having faced those sorts of things. Like my mom telling me stories about going to a segregated school. Like my mom, oh man, when Obama was first inaugurated, the tears my mama
Oh,
shed,
never would have
because
thought it.
never ever would have thought she went to a fully segregated school. And I don't know when she told me she finally, if she told me she ended up, in integrated schools, and it's just such a history that you just can't escape, and you feel it every day. And I think the other part of it is the reminder, like when you see white faces, and you understand white power in the States, that's also a
There you
difference
go.
because it's still such a struggle that we haven't gotten past, honestly,
400,
so we can
500 years later.
exactly. We can talk about ancestors and everything they've been through, but we still living this every day. I wrote a poem one time that says, "Show me your Holocaust and I'll show you mine." And it's
There
no
you go.
disrespect to anybody else who has faced the Holocaust, but the Holocaust is not relegated to one group of people. There have been
Mm-hmm.
multiple Holocausts, one including the African Holocaust with the transatlantic slave
Slave
passage,
trade.
which
Yep.
continues in the United States to this day. It has not
There you
stopped.
go. There you go. There you go. And I think, when you're talking about unpacking some of this issue for us as Blacks in America, I think, and there was no way for it to actually logistically happen. But once they said, hey, you're free, nobody said, okay, here's some therapy to unpack this 400 years that we have taken you through. So, of course, we're going to continue this cycle, generation after generation after generation, of not being able to heal.
Absolutely. And not only not having therapy, but then throwing them into jail for vagrancy and forcing many back on the plantations and as sharecroppers
Our
and all of that
men,
sort of stuff. So and even still holding some in complete bondage. So it's things that weren't let go of really, and things that were actually ramped up based on the fact that those people never really wanted us here and only allowed us to
free
be here for
labor.
what they could get out of us. Yeah, exactly. And when they couldn't get out of us anymore, then we were just trash, and
Mm-hmm.
things happen. So if you live your life under those conditions and raise children under those conditions and keep things going, then it's just a cycle. And then add to that, like what we know about us historically as a people and how we have dealt with mental well-being, mental illnesses, and things like that, and not really wanting to talk about it so much about, where we want to talk about, pray about it and these things like that, and not even really want to tell people to even get therapy. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
so many things. So it's so much that we still have to deal with. I'm really thankful that we are in a space that we are in now where we're becoming so much more proactive than reactive. But I feel like we still have a long way to go. But
Oh,
I know
yeah.
that as long as we keep these kinds of conversations going, that's the thing about it. I always said I was in my first time in a psych hospital. I got up the first day, I was going to breakfast. And my first thought as I was walking past staff members going to, now I'm in there for attempted a suicide attempt in a psych hospital. And I'm worried about what these people think of me. Do they think I'm crazy? Because even at that time I had already started Black Fathers. I had this going, I had things going on, and I'm like, I don't want people to look at me like I'm crazy or like
Oh,
I'm not competent. Like if I'm trying to get business partners or anything like that, you know? So it's been such a stigma, but I always knew that we would never change anything by going along just to get along, you
There you
know?
go.
And we couldn't change anything in silence. That's for damn sure. So I knew I had to speak out. So I started talking about this many years ago, and a lot of people told me, "Oh, don't put all that stuff on Facebook. Don't do this and that." But when I did, I had other people who would message me and say, "Hey, guess what? I'm going through this too. I never
There
told
you go.
anybody, but I'm this, I'm that. I didn't tell anybody else, but I'm telling you. Only why? Because they've seen me put myself out there first. So they
Mhm.
being vulnerable to me, they not strong enough to or willing enough to tell the whole world, but at least they'll tell me. And I'm like I said, a lot of people say I never told anybody else. So for even for them to come to me and just and simply tell me, hey, this is what I'm going through, when they've not told another soul in the world, that means a lot.
So
And it shows that, you know, what I said was right. The only way things are going to change is by us having these conversations. Now, a lot of events are taking place, and people are saying, let's have the
these
conversations
conversations.
before somebody kills themselves, before somebody ends up in the psych hospital. Let's have these conversations.
There you go. And I mean, me and you are around the same age, and I've got elders who we don't talk about. We don't talk about. So it's very refreshing to see
Mhm.
generations forward starting to say we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna start
Yes,
unpacking this because we're not carrying this to the future generation. We're not giving this to
absolutely.
our kids.
And on that note, I want to say I want to really shout out my oldest two sons who both have gone to see therapists. I don't want to get too deep in their diagnosis and expose too much of their information, but they are taking steps that they definitely need to improve themselves as much as they possibly can. And at 26 and 25 years old, Black men living in Baltimore City, I couldn't be any prouder of them if I tried really hard. I love them so much.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let me ask you one more question because I have taken up an hour of your time, and I only
Hey,
plan to take 30. I apologize.
no, you don't
Um,
have to at all.
So you did mention it a little bit. So I want to talk about you have a book that people can pick up. What's the title of the book and what will people find in
Yes,
there?
it's called Butterfly Messages, How I Learned to Get Off the Ground and Fly. And it's a book of 28 poems with 28 graphics to match. And it's sort of created like a journal. So I pretty much put the poems into somewhat of a chronological order, we could say, based on when I first figured out that I really had to do something different. Once my ex-wife said, listen, I'm done. We're getting a divorce. It's over. And I knew something had to give. And it wasn't just me going out to find somebody else. It wasn't me going to lift weights or get with another chick or anything like that. It was me really having to look deeply within myself and say, who am I as a person? And who do I really want to be? Because this person that I've been as a husband and a father is not it, obviously. Because my life has changed, and at the time, I felt it was shattered. So, you know,
Mhm.
I had been with my wife at the time. We had been together for 21 years. So it was like really half our lives. But for so much of it, she was just really putting up with me, you know? And I realized that, and I knew that I had to do something different. So I came to Colombia, worked to get my mind together. Like I said, I started microdosing psilocybin. I utilized cannabis. I've gone to so many different things, from healing circles to drumming circles to the Zen Buddhist meditation I went to one time. I went to church. I did all of these things. So I really put in to this book. I created poems that really represent the transition that I went through, which is why it's butterfly messages. It's really that
Mhm.
metamorphosis from
Mhm.
that caterpillar who was struggling and scared to get off the ground, and who wanted to fly, but really didn't know how to get himself to the position where he wanted to fly. So he's really on the ground being this person that's not going where he wants to go in life, and was not having the relationships, first of all, with self, the love for self that he needed to have in order to
For sure.
flourish, you know? So I had to develop that and really understand how to love myself before I could really love the other people in my life the way that I was supposed to. So I talk about all of that, being in Colombia, the sights, the sounds in Colombia, the lessons that I've learned, the healing that I've gone through and everything that I'm still going through. I have my last poem is called Enough, and it came to me. I was actually, well, all of the poems I wrote at my ex-wife's apartment. I was staying there one week while she was out of town. I stayed with our kids. And so I wrote all of the poems at that time. The last one is called Enough, and it's about a time when I went to a healing circle and I had on a t-shirt that said, I am enough. And I shared my story. And after that, I felt so ashamed that I turned the t-shirt inside out because I felt like I was perpetrating a fraud. Like I got a shirt on that says I am enough, but really in my heart of hearts, I don't even believe it.
Oh,
So I wrote about that and how I've really come to understand that I absolutely am. And like I said, with or without a t-shirt, I'm gonna show it. So I don't need that
mm,
t-shirt to validate anything. I know that I am enough.
there you go.
And it's all of those sorts of things that are in the poem. I talk about splitting, like I said, splitting from my ex-wife. She freed me. I'm excited to see the next chapter in the both of us because we're still really good friends. So
Mm,
I want nothing but the absolute best for her. So I'm always excited to see where she's going in life, and what's happening with her. And not only that, our children, two of our children still live with her. So, I'm
mm,
very much invested. So the book is so very dear to me. And I love it not only because it's personal, very, very personal to me, but I think for a lot of men will appreciate it because there's so many things that men are also thinking, like the things that I'm saying, that men are thinking that they're not telling other people. So a
mm,
lot of people will be able to relate, men and women, but especially men who are going through and who are not necessarily vocalizing, who are not sitting around with their homeboys. And I think that's one of the things, like, I know this is not the case for all women, but I think women more so have social circles and friendship
yeah.
circles where they can go and they can say, look, this is what I'm dealing with, give me some
Mm,
advice, yada, yada. But for so much we don't do that. I met a guy, an Uber driver, one time. He picked me up and I was talking to him about, I guess, Black fathers probably. And somehow he said, no, I was putting on an event called Centered, where I wanted men to come out and really work towards centering themselves because so many of us, like I said, my whole identity was father, husband, and that's how I put
yeah.
it out there. And so many of us, we don't have no knowledge of who we are. We just know we're somebody's father, we're somebody's husband, and that's who we are.
Mm,
So the idea of centered was that, our feelings count too, number one. So we need to really center ourselves and not just do for everybody till we run ourselves ragged, but we
everything
also gotta,
flows from that.
right, we gotta take care of ourselves.
Hmm.
So that is what I was working on. And the guy, he told me, he said, I don't tell this to anybody else, but sometimes I just go in my basement and I sit by myself and I cry. And it's just stuff like that. Like we need to be able to get those things out. And I know that I'm always going to be an advocate for not only myself, but other men, especially, and for our mental well-being and the things that we go through. So I'm never going to be afraid to stand on the front line and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm going through. You're going to see me fully exposed and you can either take it or leave it, but I know it's going to help somebody.
There you go. It gives other men, especially other Black fathers, the comfort to know,
Yes.
hey, it's safe for me to share me too as well. It's okay. Because
Yes.
and I think that's one of the things that Black men have never had the freedom to say historically. It's like it's okay for me to show me, you know,
Yes.
not
Yes.
not not this perception of me or what you
Right.
feel is going to make this white person over here comfortable or
Yeah.
this presentation as a father. Okay, wait a minute, I got to be husband right here. So right now I just want to show you me, so
Yes. And it's
yeah.
okay to take care of me. And we could say, like, people say self-care is not selfish. And I disagree. I
Hmm.
say it's very selfish. And it's supposed to be. That's why it is self-care. It is
There you go.
selfish and unselfish because, like I said, when you improve your relationship with yourself, it improves all your other relationships. So you have to be a little selfish. You have to focus on yourself, your needs, and what it takes for you to be the best version of you can possibly be. And then you send that out into the rest of the world. you know?
What is that phrase? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Absolutely not. And
Mm.
I was trying to do that for so long, and that's why I was driving myself crazy. And that's why a lot of us end up being depressed and all of that, because we're trying to do for everybody else. We people pleasers, we doing all this, doing all of that, and we are totally empty and devoid on the inside. And so many of us are only doing those things because we're trying to fill ourselves up. So we fill ourselves up with all this external stuff when we're not filling ourselves internally.
Like you said, back in the day, you were stepping out the house fresh and so clean, clean, but
Yeah, of course, because I fed off the compliments. Oh, Matt, that's slick. Oh, this, that. And that's what made me feel good about myself. Not who I was as a person, but people complimenting me on what I could afford and what I could put on my body.
Mhm, mhm. One more question before I ask you my random question. You and the wife are currently, you told me about the Facebook group that you're working on, but you and your wife are working on some, is it medicinal cannabis or is it?
So what we're doing right now is we're starting an apparel line first, and it's called Smoking Roaches,
Okay.
SMOKIN roaches. SmokingRoaches.co is our website that we're getting ready to launch this week. And so the concept is it's very simple for cannabis connoisseurs. Many of us, we understand when we get down to the get down, and we might put it out for a little bit because it's so short or whatever.
Mm,
But then when we really down to the get down and we pick that
mm,
thing back up just because we need a couple puffs, we are smoking the roaches. So
roaches.
that was the idea. It was a cool sounding phrase to me, but also the idea, like, I'm not only a client, I'm the president, because I do definitely indulge and I smoke my roaches. So a lot of people can relate. So we're coming out with the apparel first and foremost, and some accessories for the house. We got like a 𝗧𝗵𝗊, a pillow on there, and some other things on the website.
Okay.
But we're also moving into is merchandise, which is for accessories for smokers specifically. So we'll be getting into that. And down the line, what we are working towards, when all of this becomes very successful, as we know it will, we'll be opening our Smoking Roaches social clubs, which will be consumption clubs for cannabis connoisseurs. So we know, like, you have in Amsterdam and even some other countries already, they have the consumption
Mm-hmm.
clubs and the cafes and things. So that's what we're looking for, where we can infuse meals and infuse drinks and all of that for our cannabis connoisseurs. So Smoking Roaches Social Club.
All right. So it sounds like you're going to be staying in Colombia for a while. We won't get you back in the United States, huh?
Not in the US anytime soon. We'll be moving around. We'll be shifting maybe to, some other countries here and on the continent. And we're also looking to, see what else we can see. Africa, Europe, wherever, the wind blows us.
World
But
is, yeah.
the US is, yeah, it's not for us
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, I understand. I understand. Let me ask you
It's
my
just
random
not.
question, and then I will ask you to tell us how we connect with you and stuff. Let's see what we got. Do you drink milk?
Almond and oat.
Oh, so this question's not gonna work. All righty. Should you put your socks on first or your pants?
Um, Socks. I think I generally put my socks on first, usually.
Okay. The first question was how many days past the expiration date before you throw out the milk? So that wasn't the
Oh, goodness.
question. All righty, dear. So tell us how we pick up the book, how some Black fathers join the group if they pass the intake. We got intake to do, but just tell us how we peek in on you.
Certainly. So first, the book is available in hardback on Amazon, and when I get down to it, it will also be available on Kindle. I have to get that going so people can order that if they want, if they don't want to get the physical copy. But again, on Amazon, you can search my pen name is 𝗵𝗀, Mateo Prez, Pres, and it's Butterfly Messages. So if you put that in your search on Amazon, Butterfly Messages, Mateo Prez, you will see the book come up. As far as the Facebook group for Black men 17 and up, you can go to Facebook, and the group is Black Fathers. Those two words, Black Fathers, you will see that come up. There are other groups by that name, but you will
Mhm.
know us with our red picture on there and doing the dad thing and our 100,000 plus members, which they don't have.
Should be
No.
the dead giveaway. That should be the dead giveaway there, right? The 100,000
Exactly.
members. Okay.
They
All
not
right.
they not touching that. But anyway, so that's that group. But also I really want people to support the Rooted in Culture, Raised in Love also, because I think that's really important. As I said, over the years, we've seen a number of parents, both Black women and white men and women who are raising Black children who want to connect with Black males to get perspective as far as, fathering or
Right.
parenting Black children, we'll say. So those are the main things right now. Look out for that, and then smoking again, smokingroaches.co, SMOKINROACHES.CO.
All righty. Well, little old me, from little old me, I appreciate your personal growth. I appreciate your commitment to the fathers. I appreciate you being a role model Black father, bucking against the stereotypes. I just appreciate everything that you're doing. Just awesome and amazing. Keep on doing you, which I'm sure you will.
Absolutely.
Little old me, I appreciate you so
Certainly.
much.
Oh, and I just thought I don't want to forget also. So the Smoking Roaches Social Club is IG, but also my wife and I created an IG Southbound Soulmate to chronicle our journey leaving the United States, coming down to Colombia. So if anybody wants to follow that way and see what we're doing here in Rio Negro, Medellin, and wherever else the wind blows us, Southbound Soulmates on IG.
So it's good to be Black outside the United States, right?
Oh, it's so good. It's a great feeling. I promise you, it is.
I know. Well, sir, I'm so proud of you. I'm looking forward
Thank
to
you.
again seeing some ventures, and I thank you so much for your time and all your work.
Thank you as well. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reed, and I will see everybody next time.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Black Men Matter series on the Male Perspective. This podcast is an initiative of Conversations in Color, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to uplifting Black voices. Make sure to check out our website, conversationsincolor.org, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. We'll see you on the next episode.